Hey guys, welcome. My name is Kevin Wilson. This is Desert Tree, and whatever kind of desert you've been in, if it's right now or if it was last week or last year, we believe that Jesus wants to meet every one of us under our tree in the desert and encourage us, provide for us. And I'm really excited about this Bible study that we've been doing in the book of Job. This is the third study. I encourage you, if this is the first one you're seeing, go back and check out the other ones. The first one was in the last chapter, chapter 42, where we see really the end of the story where God just blesses and restores Job and gives him hope and for all of his integrity. And then last week we looked at chapter 1. And before I mention it, I'll just throw it out there for you guys, even if you weren't here last week. Does anybody remember, and you don't need to go into all the details, but just the bullets of what happens? What are some of the things that happen in Job chapter 1? Anyone want to throw anything out?
Well, I think the main thing was that Satan asked God for one person, and God allowed him to go after Job, and Job lost all everything that he had as far as possessions, including his children. I think that's a pretty quick summary of it.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, so there's a lot, even in just what you said, that we're introduced to this worldview where there's an unseen realm where Satan is at work in the world and he goes in the presence of God, just like you said, Tate, and he really asked God permission to attack Job. And that's partly beautiful as well, because what we see is that God is sovereign, that God is in charge, and that Satan cannot do anything without God's permission. And yeah, we definitely see that, just like you said, that he takes out, his business, his legacy, his animals, his employees, all this, and also his children. And anything else that you think is let me ask this question, guys, because we talked about this a little, and we're going to get into that this week. Um, why do you think, or if you remember, why does God allow that to happen from last week? That's a heavy question. I know that's big, but I'm really just asking for, like, what did we talk about, or what do you think was Satan's motive, or do we get any glimpse into God's motive for allowing Satan to attack him?
Yeah, I don't want to answer everything, but I'll say that Satan was said to God that Job only loved him because God had blessed him, and that if he were to take away all the things, all the blessings that Job had, then surely Job would turn on God, which wasn't the case.
Yeah, thank you, Tate. That's really good. We won't let you answer any more questions because you you obviously have the answer key right there. But um, no, it's really beautiful. Anybody else want to add to that? Go for it.
Well, I just fast forward into Jesus. I mean, I think sometimes that Christianity is sold in a way that is not reality. In terms of you follow God and everything's going to be okay. Give your life over to Him and He's going to take care of everything, which is true to a point. But to be called to follow Jesus means that we're going to suffer, and that's part of this whole thing too. Is just showing God's goodness no matter what, and his view of good and what he his definition of good is not our definition of good most of the time. And
Amen.
it's a choice. Are we going to love because of what we get, or are we going to love because of who he is? And that's kind of it. So
Thank you. Yeah, thanks, Greg. One thing we talked about last week that came up that I love is we went back to Genesis 3 and we talked about why would a good God, all-powerful God allow Satan to be in the garden in the first place? And why would a good God allow the tree of the knowledge of good and evil to be in the garden in the first place? And just as a reminder, I know it's a heavy question. It's deep. There's a lot there, but one of the things that we talked about is choice, that God, the God of the Bible, honors choices. He honors choices, and he wants to show us what's in our heart. I mean, he knows what's in our hearts already. Obviously, he knows everything, but he allows us to see what's in our hearts. And the beautiful thing here, just the end of chapter 1, is this declaration by Job, I think is so powerful. So this is Job 1, verse 21. Uh, Job says, naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I will depart. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. May the name of the Lord be praised. And man, that's heavy. But this picture of this faithful man, when his world falls apart, he comes face to face with losing everything at this point, even his children. And here he is saying, God be praised either way. It's not for me to hold on to things, and it's not for me to judge God. Um, so anyway, we're going to move on to the second test that we see here. So
And
Satan is, yeah,
something
go
before
for
we end. I'm not answering a question, so I don't know if I can make a comment.
it. Do it,
But
bring it.
I think one of the things that we saw in chapter 1 was that God said you cannot touch his body. And I think that's important because Satan took everything basically away from Job, but he didn't touch his body. And that it's important because today we're going to go through a little bit more, right? So
Yes.
why God protected his body first? I don't know. Maybe you guys have some, deep theological answer on that, but um, yeah, looking forward to going into 2 now.
Yeah, and I just appreciate that, Tate, because the other thing that, again, that we see that's clear is that Satan is not in charge of God, that God is sovereign and God sets the parameters. And, just like Jesus said in the Sermon on the Mount, you know, we can't make ourselves 1 inch taller. And, there's nothing that we can do, in that sense, that's outside of the sovereignty of God, that he's in charge so much. So let's see. Yeah, Satan comes to him yet again. That's what we're going to see in this chapter, and God gives him permission to go deeper. And I want to start off with a question here because there's an important word that we're going to discover. We're going to see it in this chapter, and that's integrity. Job has integrity. He doesn't lose his integrity no matter what happens. And I just want to start off asking you guys, because I know every one of you, I know you're men of God. You guys have been through some stuff. And I just want to ask you, is there anybody that comes to your mind, um, a mentor, a spiritual father figure, somebody that comes to your mind that is a person of integrity? Like, even when I say the word integrity, anybody, Victor, Tim, Greg, Ross, anybody jump out at you that's just, they have integrity, and what does that mean, to you?
Amen. I'll take on that one.
Thanks,
We
Tim.
got a pastor at my church here in Rantoul Christian Life named Scott Gold. And I believe he's the most honest man of God I've ever met. He always is concerned. He knows everybody's name, which I can't remember names to save my life. But he remembers everyone's name, calls them by name every Sunday. And it's just an amazing man of the word, too. He knows the word very deeply. I guess that's it.
That's great. I love that, Tim. Um, integrity from the root integer, meaning a whole, meaning that they're the same in public that they are in private. There's no two-faced about them. They're honest, pure of heart. Thank you, Tim, for sharing. And yeah, anybody else, if you have something on the tip of your tongue, feel free to share it. Well,
I'm
let's,
thinking, I'm thinking of my pastor Dave. Dave is just real. He's just who he is, and sometimes people don't take it. They don't take him the way that he means to be, but he's not different ever. I mean, he's whether you see him at home or whether you see him at church, you see him on a Sunday morning, he's the same guy. And I think that that is so unusual for some people. They don't know what to do with that.
mhm.
Right.
I think it's sad that in our day that we live in now, with all the social media and everything else, that you don't see people with integrity, or it's hard to find somebody with a lot of integrity that the world sees, or even the United States sees, as a role model for integrity. It's no longer in the presidential seat for sure. Hasn't been for a long time in politics, and that's what it used to be. But to see how far we've come from what integrity used to be to now, you can't even really find it in somebody that everyone would know.
Yeah, that's a good word, guys. So let's just keep that in our minds as we read this chapter. And I just want to say, I believe what God's going to invite every one of us to do is to think about our own integrity. Even when things are hard and uncomfortable, what does that look like for us? To be inspired by Job, really, to see that, man, um, he did not give up. He did not curse God, and he certainly was uncomfortable. Well, let's jump in, and again, we're just going to make some observations to see what's there in the text. Um, there's nothing tricky, nothing fancy about it. We're just going to slow down and observe what words and phrases are there, and use our brains and say, okay, what's God inviting us to do in light of this truth that's here? So,
Amen.
anybody want to read? We're just going to look at the first three verses first, and see what we see there. All right, I'll jump
Okay.
in. You got it, Tim? Go for it, bro.
Again, there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord. And Satan came also among them to present himself before the Lord. And the Lord said unto Satan, From whence comest thou? And Satan answered the Lord and said, From going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. And the Lord said unto Satan, Hast thou considered my servant Job? But there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and upright man, one that feareth God and escheweth evil. And still he holdeth fast his integrity, although movest me against him to destroy him without cause.
Thank you, Tim. That's great. All right. Again, my strategy when I read God's word is really just to see what's there. What's the story? And then, what is the theology that's there? What's important about God and about people and about, what it means to be a Christian? So, anybody have any observations that stand out to you just from these first three verses? We're just going to look at 13. That's it.
Well, I missed the first chapter last week, and same wordage, the exact same wordage. And um, when Satan comes and God asks him a question, it's kind of like back in the Garden of Eden. He asks, "Where are you?" Asking, but he knows, right? He knows. But the difference here is, and I think it's a perspective in terms of where evil is in the world and how it functions, how Satan functions, because he says, "Where have you come from?" And Satan said, "From going to and fro on the earth and walking up and down on it." Well, we know that everything Satan says is a lie. So he's not walking the earth because he's a liar. So that just, no, he is. So it makes me think about how the world functions. And it's like, he sits back. It's like I see it back in Revelation. I feel like, based upon that, my opinion here is that Satan is really locked up and he's walking towards God with his guards and he's in shackles and he gets to come before God, before the king, whatever, the judge, and he has no right to anything, but he is allowed to talk. And now he's given authority, in a sense, limited, but it's his minions, his demons, his workers. It's like I'm in prison and he's got a thing. Well, I didn't do that. He's calling the shots, telling his evil workers what to do, but he's in prison locked up. We see it in movies all the time, right? So the kingpin is in and he's making all the calls and having all his minions do his work. And when he gets accused, he's like, I didn't do that. I'm locked up. I couldn't have done that. He's a liar and he's a deceiver. And I just see the world differently after that hit me, that he is not free. One day he will be for a short time. And I think that's the key. So that always stands out to me.
Mhm.
Thank you, Greg. Anybody else have any thoughts on those first three verses?
Yeah, I got a thought, if you guys don't mind. Put my 2 cents in. Just when God said, "Have you considered my servant Job?" I think God already knew what Job was going to do, and I don't think the devil knew. I know the devil didn't know. He figured he was going to tempt Job, and Job was going to give it up.
Yeah,
You
and
know?
again, I think that's great insight, Vic. And what do you think what is Satan's goal? Like, what is his motive? What does he want to accomplish there?
I think he wants to mock God.
Yes.
In my opinion, to prove him wrong, to try to prove him wrong.
Yeah, we talked about this a little last week, and we're going to see it in the next three verses here that, in our culture, people use the word narcissism all the time, just to mean selfish. But Satan here is the ultimate narcissist. It's all about him. He wants to play the victim constantly, and he wants to accuse God of being the villain. And that's because, for Satan, everything is transactional. He doesn't understand unconditional love. Everything is transactional here. So he cannot possibly understand, this love and this faithfulness that Job has for God. So that's his challenge. His motive, just as you said, Vic, is to mock God, and to say they don't really love you. They just want the blessings. Hey, Greg, great to see you, bro. Even though it
Hey,
says,
Kevin.
even though
Sorry
it
I'm a
says
little late.
Vincent, no, we're glad to have you, man.
Glad to be here.
All right, well, we're gonna jump in, and just to summarize what we've done so far, Greg, is we just looked at the first three verses of Job chapter 2, where Satan is interacting with God. The last chapter, God gave him permission to take away all Job's possessions and his business and even his children. And here in chapter 2, Satan has come into God's presence, and he's about to ask God for permission now to hurt him physically. And so we're seeing this interaction between God and Satan, and we're going to ask, what does it look like for us to have integrity ultimately, like Job? So, all right, the next three verses, I'll just go ahead and read them. So this is Job 2 verses 4 through 6. And I'm just going to ask you guys, what do you think this is about? What's going on here? So Satan says this in verse 4. Skin for skin, Satan replied. A man will give all he has for his own life, but stretch out your hand and strike his flesh and bones, and he will surely curse you to your face. And the Lord said to Satan, very well then, he's in your hands, but you must spare his life. All right, there's a lot going on there, and I just want to just say that phrase "skin for skin" is kind of it's hard to translate, but this is really a proverb that's going on here, and the explanation is in the next verses. So what do you think here, that what is Satan saying to God? He's really accusing him. What do you think he's saying?
Well, I think it may be a little bit talking about that it was the things that around him, the family that was around him that all the calamity happened to, all the stuff, but now his touch himself. He's been kind of shielded from that a little bit, and now that he's going to have to put himself in the game. So it's easier to sit back and watch other people go through calamity, but now he's going to have to go through it. Now we'll see what happens to him.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
makes sense.
yeah, exactly. He's saying to God, well, the only reason he's praising you is because you've not let me hurt him yet. You've not really let me touch him. And so let's see if he's still praising you after I touch him. And so again, he's mocking God, and he's challenging the love that Job has for God. He's challenging this, and he's saying, if you just let me hurt him, then he'll curse you.
Is there something about that can be related to like Peter, where he's he's following Jesus and people are pointing, hey, he's one of those followers, and now he's been identified as one of those guys, and it's like now what's he going to do? And he backs off because he doesn't want himself to get killed, so he's backing off. So it's kind of that same thing, you think,
Oh,
where
yeah,
on the he'll
yeah,
back off.
Peter denies him. Yeah, Satan is at his core, the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And this is what he does. He's the constant accuser. He's constantly accusing, God of protecting. You're protecting them. That's the only reason they love you, because you're blessing them. That's it. This is what Satan does. He's just constantly accusing. He's constantly saying of us. If you're watching this is what Satan does, is he's constantly pointing his finger and saying, God, if you just let me hurt him, he'll turn from you. You know, that this is just a health and wealth gospel that we're following. That is Satan's constant accusation here. And so God says, okay, I'm willing. I'm willing to put my name and my love on the line here. And again, I just want to say this for you guys and for anybody who's clicked on this and you're really hurting. Your pain is valid, and that doesn't mean that God has done it. There is a real Satan, real demons, and this world is broken. And so it doesn't mean, this is a hard question. How could God allow it if he's good? How could God allow it? But the worldview of the Bible is that this was not God's plan from the beginning. In Genesis 1 and 2, it was his plan that there would be no death. And so the death entered in Genesis 3 because of human sin. But I know that's heavy. I know that's why doesn't God just immediately heal everyone? Why doesn't he protect everyone? Man, that's a valid question. And it seems as though, yeah, he's not answering all of that here.
But it is his plan. We see that with Joseph in Genesis. He comes right to the end and he said, what you intended for evil, God used for good. And that's that same thing here. We see the evil and we don't know what the outcome is going to be. We know the outcome of some of these stories because we have the Bible. But in our own lives, we don't know what the outcome is, but it's that confidence that God does have a plan, whether we see it or not. He's going to get glory out of it somehow.
Yeah, thank you, Greg. And yeah, and we see that here in Job, that that's one reason I wanted to start with chapter 42, is because we see that Job actually gets to this place where he's blessed by it. He's actually blessed by what has happened to him. But I know that's a hard teaching, guys. I know if you're tuning into this, I'm not going to sit here and just say some cliche like, like just praise the Lord and just ignore your pain and your suffering. No, your pain is valid. What Job experiences here is valid, and we're going to see that Job is honest with God. He still keeps his integrity even though he experiences great suffering. Let's keep going and read verses 7 through 10 and just see what we observe there. And guys, I know this stirs up a lot of questions. And I just want to say God can handle your questions and we can put those. This is a safe place to put our questions out on the table. This is not easy stuff. It's not easy. All right, so verse 7 and following, I'll read it. So Satan went out from the presence of the Lord and afflicted Job with painful sores from the soles of his feet to the top of his head. Then Job took a piece of broken pottery and scraped himself with it as he sat among the ashes. And verse 9, his wife said to him, "Are you still holding on to your integrity? Curse God and die." And Job replied, "You're talking like a foolish woman. Shall we accept good from God and not trouble?" In all this, Job did not sin in what he said. All right, let's just stop there. There's a lot that goes on here, and I just want to stop and just ask for observations. What do you see? What jumps out at you from the text, guys?
Evan, what I see happening here is kind of a parallel to Christ when he was led by the Spirit into the wilderness. You know, that's a great parable. But the one thing we don't see is that the Spirit left him. And because it didn't, the Spirit was with Christ through all three temptations, just as he's with Job here when he gets all these boils all over his body. Job understands that Christ is still with him, or God is still with him.
That's a great word, Tim. Yeah, that's so valid. And that that wilderness that Jesus goes into, that it says the Spirit led him to that place, where he's tempted and where he suffered.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, Satan is there accusing him. Satan is there mocking him, telling him, why don't you turn these stones into bread? And why don't you just take away all these problems, all this discomfort, And I love that insight, Tim, that Jesus has that long view in mind that, no, we're doing something here for the glory of God that you don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a great word. Anybody else have any insights or any observations from verses 7 through 10?
Yeah, I've got like 2 cents. So going back to the Garden of Eden, when Eve talked Adam into eating the fruit, that reminds me of Job's wife basically asking or telling Job to curse God. I mean, in a sense, they kind of one and the same, if you ask me. That's the way I see it. I don't know if anybody agrees with me on that, but it's the woman again trying to turn the man against God, or turning the man against God. So
yeah, I'll just jump in here and say I think that's a good observation, Victor, and certainly there are, if you're a godly woman, watching this, we know in this Bible study, we know that there are also ungodly men that are telling their wives to, turn away from God. And so it's not that she's female necessarily, but yeah, she's definitely not a godly wife here, that she's just telling Job, just stop this, just let this ridiculous faith go and go ahead and curse God.
Well,
So,
I think a part of it is, at least as I see it, she's seen all this stuff that happened to her family too. We're talking about how Satan is attacking Job, but the things that happen to us affect other people as well. And she's watching all this stuff happen. And she's probably seeing her husband there, and now all the other things are gone. Now the person that's the closest to her is just is got all this stuff going on, and she might just be saying, why don't you just give up? It's not getting any better. Obviously, it's better for you to die. She might have been saying it out of care for him. It's just give it up and die so you don't have to suffer anymore. She's probably tired of seeing suffering, because he does say, or at least in my translation says, you speak as one of the foolish women would speak. So it makes me wonder if she had a faith and now her faith is rocked. And he's like, "Hey, wait a minute, your faith is changing here. Don't talk like them. This is not the way it was. Don't." And maybe he's imploring her not to lose her faith. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I love that. And I just want to observe one of the things I see in his interaction with her is that he's respectful of her even when
Yes.
he's challenging her. He's not calling her names. He's not saying, you're a horrible person. He's saying you
Yes.
sound like a foolish person. He's not saying you are. He's saying, "Hey, think, you need to think rightly here, honey, please. Don't turn from God. God's got a blessing in mind here, even if it's not on our timetable."
This just came to my mind. Okay. Relationships. He's attacking this relationship with his wife, and we all experience that, right? I've heard it say that it's easier if your spouse dies than it is for your spouse to leave you. The rejection of that. And Satan is attacking this relationship too through what he's doing there. And he's driving a wedge there.
Mhm.
Man, that's great insight, Greg Myers. I mean, that's like all of us have experienced that. What Satan wants to do is to isolate. He
That's
wants to
right.
drive a
Yes.
wedge. The people that are close to us. He wants to get us out of church. He wants to get us out of community. I'm reminded of, I was watching a nature show one day, and I was watching this lion attacking this herd. I can't remember what it was, but what they said, it's so crazy, guys, is that a lion can identify if an animal is 1 degree off what is healthy physically. A lion can tell who's weak and who's sick. And so the
Wow.
lion wants to separate that animal from the herd so they can attack it. And that's exactly what Satan's doing here. He's trying to come in between his marriage here with his partner.
And I think she's probably wanting to escape the pain too, because if he dies, then this can go away. I don't have to see it. I don't have to face it. And we try to escape our pain too, right? It's like, I don't want to go through this anymore. Just die and get it done. Just get it over with.
Greg, you've opened my eyes to why my ex-wife said, "Curse you and die." That maybe it was out of compassion and for this reason too. So
Sounds like Satan got to the broads. That's what it sounds like to me.
Oh man.
Satan got to all these broads.
Oh. Yeah, I want to invite you into the conversation, Ross Davidson, because you left a great comment over here. So, of course, you don't have to share, but I just want to invite you. What any thoughts that you have about anything we've talked about so far?
Now, I was just thinking of the thesaurus from head to toe, and then the whole wager of, yeah, watch once he suffers, he'll turn his back on you. And to me, that's just a basic lesson of faith, which is Satan was like, you see, when things get bad, people won't believe in you, and that just seems a very elementary lesson to me at the point I came into the meeting, because that's true for our lives right now.
I think all of us have seen that with our friends and with members of the church where they turn their backs on you, don't believe in you, or think that you've done something wrong, and how we've all felt hurt by the church, but yet still know of Christ's love for us. And so we don't lose our faith. We may have lost people who we didn't need in our lives anyway.
Yeah, thank you, Tate. I just want to highlight what you just said, Tate, because for us that are in this room, like I know some of our stories. I know all of your stories, guys, and the people that are maybe clicking in that I don't know. I just want to say, just want to acknowledge it that we've all experienced church hurt that are in this meeting, and a part of it is that pastors and church leaders are just not equipped, and sometimes they're tired, sometimes they're overworked. But that's just a reality is that people fail and spouses fail, friends fail, family fail. And what we see here is that Job still has integrity. He still holds on to God, even though this horrible picture of him, scratching his sores, with this pottery. And I don't know if you guys have been there. I have definitely felt like I've been there several times in my life, and it's a difficult place. It's a hard place to be.
Yeah.
I do want to look at these next three verses because these are the only verses, in the next 40 chapters or so where his friends actually function as good friends. And so let's celebrate them and let's think of the people in our lives who were faithful, who did great, even for a time, even for a season. And let's also think about how we can be good, comforting friends. Um, so does anybody want to read 11, 12, and 13 for us? Anybody that is maybe an extrovert and you got to read something out loud.
I can read if you don't mind me butchering these names.
Oh man, we got you. Yeah, thank you, Greg.
Okay. I'm in the ESV. Now, when Job's three friends heard of all this evil that had come upon him, they came each from his own place. Eliphaz the Temanite, Bildad the Shuhite, and Zophar the Naamathite. They made an appointment together to come to show him sympathy and comfort him. And when they saw him from a distance, they did not recognize him. And they raised their voices and wept. And they tore their robes and sprinkled dust on their heads towards heaven. And they sat with him on the ground 7 days and 7 nights, and no one spoke a word to him, for they saw that his suffering was very great.
Man, I'm just going to let that sit for a second. I was just telling someone today, I used to hear that phrase, man's best friend, referring to dogs. And I'll tell you what, when you go through when you go through something really hard, man, you really appreciate a good dog that just doesn't even say a word.
That's right.
Just he just sits there and says, "Man, I just love you. You're my hero. You're the smartest person I've ever met." That's a gift.
But don't we wish friends got that as well, right? My dogs have always known when I was hurt or something was wrong, and they do know how to come in, sit beside you, comfort you, and they aren't human. So why are my human friends not as understanding? Everybody always wants to have answers, and I mean we'll get into that. And
You're supposed to be over this already, bro. Get over it, bro.
Yeah, that's what
Get
people
over it.
say.
It's been 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. Get over it, bro.
Yep.
They're not dead. Get over it. That's why. That's all why.
Okay, can I say something dumb?
Please.
All right, you just made the comment that dogs aren't human, but yet they have this sense, right? Whenever I see dog, and this is silly, but we get things backwards in the world. So if you look at the word dog, backwards is God, and he is our best friend. And he comes by us and he sits quietly. He understands what we're going through, and it's beautiful. I often wonder if that's why a dog isn't God's best friend, why it's called a dog, because we can see God in it. So there you go.
To me, I think it's a beautiful picture, and I love where you're coming at with that. But to have friends who would sit there and know that you're in pain and suffering, but be able to partake in it and not try to fix, to be able to be there for him, and that's something that we don't get every day. We don't get it when we're going through hard times. We have people who have answers, or this is what you got to do next, everybody's trying to solve. I think that's men in general. We try to solve, but when you have good, godly men beside you, we should sit, we should pray, and we should be able to let God answer. I don't know about sprinkling dust on my head. I don't know what that does for, like, I'll do it but I don't understand like what that means or where it comes from, where it's related to, biblically. Why would the dust on the head mean anything?
Yeah, and what I would say first of all is Tate, I think you just said it so eloquently, that what we need when people are hurting, what they need, like Job's friends here, is it's not necessarily that they need some kind of trained counselor or some trained coach or some professional listener. You just need a friend that's going to sit and not try to fix and not try to interpret or judge or, you know, say, like you said, Ross, get over it or get back on the horse, or why are you still injured from this? Why are you still bleeding out? But I'll just
Yeah,
say,
they can't conceive of it. They can't conceive of it. So, after a few months, they're like, what the hell? Get on, bro. And we're out here years crying about the same shit. So
yes. And what I do love, you raise a great question there, Tate, too, is what they do is they communicate grief. Like they're crying with him. They tear their clothes. They put, in their culture, putting dust on your head was grieving. Like that's a part of the grieving process. So what they're doing is, they're crying with those who cry and they're laughing with those who laugh. And that's what it looks like to love. You know, I want to ask you guys, like, this is a good opportunity. All of you guys have been through stuff, and I just want to say, does anybody want to share, like, what is it that if you could have chosen your family and friends to know, like, one thing, what is it that they could have done that would have been a blessing to you or would be a blessing to you?
Man, I got a perfect example, guys, if you don't mind. Coming from Victor the Mexanite. Speaking biblically. Anyway, yeah, I was at work, and Kevin, you know this. My wife was unfaithful and had filed for divorce, and it was a painful, super painful time for me. I turned to drinking, almost gave up on God, and people at work noticed, and I was, I just didn't want to go to work. And instead of trying to hear me out and understand my situation, they were, yeah, they made my life difficult to the point where, they just, they, they were hateful. And they never asked why I was not concentrating on my job or my work, or I was making big mistakes being an aviation safety inspector. They just assumed that I was jacked up. And yeah, that was, I think, if anything, my brother did. He's a Christian, and he was with me. He stood by me. My wife stood by. I mean, not my wife, but my mother stood by me, and my daughter also stood by me. My oldest biological from my first marriage. But yeah, that was a big tug of war right there, guys. To be
Yeah.
honest, so I don't know if that made any sense or not. But sense or not.
Thank you, Victor. Yeah, people show up and it's just like Ross said, they point their finger and they say, why can't you get your stuff together? Something like that, or just
Yeah.
assume the worst. I'll say for me, um, and it's been 4 years of my journey, but the first year, um, and you guys know this, so this is really for, anybody who's watching this who just wants to love other people better. I'll just say for me, I was so tired, especially that first year of grieving after trauma. I was just so tired because, as you guys know, you don't sleep through the night. You might sleep 3 hours and that's it. You just don't sleep much. And so one of my friends said, what can I do? What can I do for you? And I just said, hey, could you just come? Could you come cook with me. Let's eat food together. Let's watch TV, good TV. And I want to take a nap while you're in the house. Like, I don't want to take a nap where I'm just all alone and, all of that isolation and all that darkness. And this is what my buddy did for me. Like, he came and I was able to take a nap and sleep deeply because there's my buddy watching TV. It's like, this is not complicated to go sit down with somebody and say, hey, what do you want to watch? You want to watch a football game? You want to watch a basketball game? You want to do nothing? You want to listen to music? Let's watch some stand-up comedy. Like, it's not hard to sit down with a friend and just be present, and go ahead.
I think for me, throughout like the whole divorce and stuff, there were so many things that I wanted, and for a long time, and still now, that like I've wanted everybody to see the truth, but I'm really starting to let that go because it doesn't matter. Yes, I'd love for my kids to, because I think it would change their views, but ultimately they're just people. My kids are just people, and God knows the truth. And so for me to let go of that and to give up on the hope that people are going to see what really went on, and to be able to, because it closes me off to everyone, and instead say people are people, they're going to believe and see what they want to see. But God and I know the truth. And for that, I can stay faithful in knowing that I have a sovereign God. And through this, everything that was bad, no matter what, God's will is still going to be done. And so I don't think that there's anything going back that I would want differently. The pain and the hurt were things that have brought me through the fire, right? I think we talked about that prior in other messages in Proverbs, where the crucibles for the silver, but the the heat, the furnace, that part is for the gold. It purifies us. And so all the pain and the hurt, and for somebody to be there, maybe it's comforting, but I might not have ended up to where I am now. I'm just thankful to have each of you guys in my life, because it's helped to realign that and keep me, probably put me back into the word more than I was, and to open my eyes back up to God's still here.
Thank you, Tate. That's such a good word. Yeah. Anybody else? I just want to, we're coming down to the end here. It's 8:04 Central Time. Anybody else have any takeaways? And yeah, Tate, I just appreciate your words, man. Yeah, this is one of the main themes of this whole book, is that God is sovereign, that if we hold on to him, no matter how we suffer, that we can actually be uh, shaped and grown. We can be better human beings if we allow him to do that. So, anybody else have any takeaways that you want to share from this?
I think one last thing is that God was quiet in this. It wasn't just his friends, but God's quiet. He's not seeing, God's not giving him blessings. God's not taking away the boils. I'm sorry, Greg.
No, you're fine.
But I think that his friends are a reflection of what God's still there with him. God's quiet as well. Mm-hmm. And we see that in our lives. Like, how many times have we said, where are you, God? I'm going through this. Where are you?
Yeah, thank you, Tate. Go ahead, Greg.
No, I was just going to say that when I started going through all my stuff, most of the people that I knew, all but about two, and they were real short-lived, just disappeared. They just disappeared. And as Tate was saying, it was the best thing for me, because I didn't lean on people to try to fix something. The only one that could fix anything I was going through was God, and he was all I had. And I had a choice. It goes back to the choice. Am I going to just wallow and just fall apart and crumble, or am I going to trust God and let Him do what only He could do? Because I can remember saying, I'm down at the bottom of this pit right now, and I don't ever want to come back. I need you, because there wasn't anybody else. And so it was really a gift that I didn't have anybody come around, even though it hurt at the time. So again, a perspective kind of thing. So I think you're right, Tate.
Man, that's great. And I just want to again highlight it, something that one of you guys said, or maybe multiple guys, that, it's a blessing to get people's perceptions out of our lives and to not worry about what people think. And Job is certainly brought to this place where he's just got to focus on God. It's not about people pleasing anymore. It's just, it brings you to this focused place of just my relationship with God is all I have. And that's a gift if we allow it to be.
If we allow it, that's the key right there, Kevin. We have to let it.
Yeah. Anything else, guys? I know there's so much we could talk about here, but anything else before I'm going to ask Greg Paul to pray us out, if you're willing, Greg. We need to hear your voice, bro. There you go.
Sure, Kevin.
Thank you, Greg. If you could just pray as the Lord leads, and then we'll transition out.
Father God, thanks for bringing this group of men together to not only study and help each other understand and heal, but to also help us have better understanding of how the world works and how you work in the world. There's no better way to learn about humans and about relationships than to read your word and to understand it more thoroughly. And we thank you for bringing the greatest understanding possible to us each time we study with you. And thanks for all the men again for getting together on a weekly basis like this to keep us all focused and in tune. Thank you, Father God.
Amen. Thank you, Greg. So I was thinking about one thing as we were just praying. I was thinking this may stir up hard things for us. This may stir up, areas of our lives where we're like, ugh, that's troubling, whatever it is. And I just want to say, I just want to affirm that. Let's give that to God. As if something gets stirred up, I just encourage you to pray it out to God, just to seek his face. He can handle it, guys. He can handle this. And if you clicked in and you're thinking, this is BS, whatever's going on in your life, I just encourage you to pray to God, to turn to him with whatever it is your struggle is. That's really the point of all this, is that we turn to God and he is willing and able to respond. He doesn't answer all our questions, but I believe he's a God who communicates. He's a God who communicates love and support, and he will respond. Ask him to speak to you in a way that you can understand, in a way that you know that it's him, and he will. He will. So let's invite it as he stirs up tension and he shows us our lack of faith and he shows us where we can get stronger. Let's do that. And one thing I just want to invite every one of us, let's be good friends to people who are in pain this week. Even just one, somebody that's hurting, let's be present to them. Let's be, listening and just sitting with people in their pain. Let's learn that lesson and be able to love people better in that. Guys, I'm grateful for you. I'm so thankful for you. Let's keep going. Let's not give up. Let's keep going one day at a time.
Amen.
I would say this, Kevin.
It's
ahead,
good to see
Greg.
everybody. Glad everybody, more people made it this week. Awesome.
Go ahead, Greg Myers.
I'm just going to say a good counselor is the best by listening.
Yes.
I have people say, man, you just really helped me so much. And I sit and think, I didn't say a word. I was just here. And that's the starting point, is they need to be heard. God hears us, and he will answer, but he wants to listen first. He wants us to talk to him.
Amen.
Chris,
Yeah, and I just want to articulate this great question that Ross asked: why were boils allowed? What was Job told as to why God would allow that suffering? And here's what I'm going to do, guys. Instead of responding with a simple answer, I'm going to say, let's talk with God about that. God, why did you allow that? Every one of us has things. God, why did you allow that pain and that suffering in my life? Let's each turn to God and see if he responds this week. All right, guys, have a great week. I'm very thankful for you.
Yeah.
All right.